Hey folks, Marc Garcia here, your candidate for mayor of Lyman. I wanted to take this time or these next few minutes to share with you where the post I shared these last few days came from and the source of the information. Nobody told me these things, nobody shared them with me. This is coming from after having to submit a FOIA, which is a Freedom of Information Act request, to be able to review what should have already been made public. It's nice to see that perhaps my request has caused some level of change, and the council has now posted the financial reports online for public access. So what do you know about the council's budget process? What do you know about the public hearings to approve the budgets submitted? I want to go to lymansc.gov and show you from the town site this information to show you that 1, it is now available. 2, to review with you key items that our current council should be held accountable to. See, transparency is key, and when an audit is done, transparency or lack thereof is evident. It's shown very clearly. One of my opponents for mayor stated that he as part of town council continued to stay within budget while cutting costs. Well, we're about to see if that's factual or not. As transparency displayed in the numbers, they don't lie. Are you open enough to see at what level those who claim to be transparent are really not? Because we will also reveal to you other items that the town council has not been integral in these reports. So, without further ado, here we go. Well, as you can see, we're actually on lymansc.gov. Just to make sure, I'll refresh it. There it is, lymansc.gov. Some garbage questions and who to call. Now, just so we're aware and you understand the process here, see, during the months of February and March, the town department heads develop operating budgets while the management and finance departments develop revenue forecasts. So during March and April, the town administrator reviews the department budgets and revenue forecasts. After various refinements and reviews, a proposed budget is presented to the town council. After 2 readings at town council meetings during May and June, for which public notices have to be announced, the town council adopts an annual budget ordinance in the general fund. So the only thing we can look at is the general fund for now. On another video, perhaps we'll delve a little deeper as far as how money is being spent and misappropriated in some other areas, but we'll just deal with this one for now. All right, so let's go in. And if you go to government, budgets and finances, by the way, January or February, when I started analyzing all this data, these are not here. The only ones that were there were 2016, 2017. I think that part of my Freedom of Information Act requests kind of lit a little something to get the other ones out. 2020 was not released until actually I requested it. So 2016, if you go delve into the accounting firm that was used, was different than the ones in the forward years or the years to come, 2017 and on, all right? This one was done by Terry C. Morris to CPA. Well, they go in and they analyze based on GASB, which is Government Accounting Standards, and they review it in a way so that they're making sure that the town is fulfilling the requirements for government accounting. All right, the government accounting standard is different than the standard for a business. It operates different. It has different nuances that have to be adhered to. And so here we have, if you scroll down here, all right, so here's the general fund budget, all right? The original and final budget, which is what's actually was put through for approval to the town council as a proposed budget, is this column right here. And so as you see, you have the revenues projected by them of 1.710, but yet the expenditures 1.771. Again, a deficit, a 61,000 deficit in the planning. Though this budget was approved by the current town council, or some of the current town council that were there in 2016, and approved with a $61,000 deficit. So now we go 2017. We're going to scroll through these very quickly because I want to cover some information for you as we move forward. In 2017, again, the same standard, that the change was Greene Finney is now the accounting firm that's now handling the finances or the reporting requirements. And when we go here and we see the original budget and revised budget, we can see, again, this is what's submitted. And if it was revised throughout the year, this will annotate that information, any changes. So here we have a total revenue of 1.883750 projected, and yet they want to spend 1.904, a $70,000 deficit in the proposed budget that council has approved. Now, here's the other part. If you go to this next page here, this is Greene Finney, that's their details, they're a very good accounting firm. Here's what they said. They shared with the town council about this issue, and town council approved the expenditures in excess of the final budget, but choose not to amend the budget. So this is an affirmation that the town council approved that the expenditures will be more than the income coming in, and declare that as the final budget and not amend it or change it. Okay, let's go to 2018. In 2018, we find that yet again, the issue arises of, the budget being, well, again, in deficit. The planning, the budget that's submitted and supposed to have gone to public hearing, we find here. Here we have the revenues projected, 1.916, but yet they want to spend $2,034,000, a deficit of $117,930. They're planning essentially to be in debt at the end of the year, or have something to be able to take them out of the hole, if you will. Again, original budget is what was submitted. The revised budget is if it was revised, because ordinances require that a revised budget has to go through approval all over again. And so that's maybe one of the reasons they never revised it. I don't know. But they've never revised it for these years. So that's 2018. Again, if we go to the next page, here's that pesky little statement. Town council approved the expenditures in excess of the final budget, but chose not to amend the budget. Okay? So now let's go to 2019. In 2019, we get to the place yet again to where we see the budget. I'm going to have time to review all of these on my own time and analyze everything that's in there. And so here we have the original budget and the revised budget. Again, the numbers are the same, which means they never revised it. The original budget, they expect in revenues of 2.480 and the expenditures to be 2.6, $151,000 in a deficit for the proposed and approved by town council budget. Now we go to 2020, which is the latest one. 2021 has not been completed yet because of COVID. The state has allowed the municipality to have a little bit more time to prepare all their financial information. According to Greene Finney, I spoke to them directly, they will be doing that and accomplishing that by January, February of 2022 for the 2021 financial analysis. So if you go down to 2020 here to the budget, again, original budget, revised budget, they seem to have adjusted things here. The revised budget was an increase of maybe $52,000 guesstimation there. And then yet the expenditures, they just used it up instead of dealing with this $56,500 that was in the deficit in the original budget. They revised the budget, they got more money in, but they spent the same amount of money to still leave a deficit of $56,500. Now, here's the interesting thing, this transfer in is, quite frankly, has been what's been carrying the municipality as a whole. What the town council has done is take money from the business side of things, which is the water and sewage, and brought it in to where they are now handling and bringing in money from there to cover their deficit. So that's the transfer in. So they're pulling money out of in the positive or in the green business side of the municipality to cover their shortfalls. So to answer the question of how someone can stay on budget and not cut costs, a balanced budget is false, because the budget was never balanced. You started at a deficit. It was never balanced, and you approved it. The town council approved these in deficit. Now, granted, they're taking money and they're putting it to where it can get them out, which questionable in itself, but okay, let's go with that. If it wasn't for the wastewater and the water and SJWD and sewage and you citizens paying your bills on time, the municipality would have been bankrupt, or at least in debt in excess of $300,000 over the 5 years with the deficit alone of the original budgets. What has been carrying our municipality, sadly to say, and you can check this out in all these reports that I've shown you, is the wastewater and sewage, as well as the business licenses that are charged. The property taxes are kind of a washout because of the salaries being paid between administration, police, municipal court, and everything else. All right. So now, aside from these, let's look at transparency. Let's look at accountability and transparency. So now 2016, there wasn't much information there. There was no real clarity as far as counsel and giving giving some counsel to the municipality to help them progress forward and help them remedy some issues that could arise and did arise. So we're just going to skip 2016, but 2017, if you go here, and if you go to the back end of that, what happens is Greene Finney takes the time to let us know about some findings concerning some misstatements or indiscretions, if you will. All right. Here are the findings described in the company schedule findings, and he states them by number as material weaknesses. A material weakness is, we're here, go to material weakness, is a deficiency or a combination of deficiencies in internal control such that there is a reasonable possibility that a material misstatement of the entity, in this case, the Town of Lyman, financial statements will not be prevented or detected and corrected on a timely basis. All right. So these are all, according to them, material weaknesses. So let's look at them. Here they are. Here, what we find is that in 2017, what we see is that there is an adjustment made of $288,947, which you can find within the report. And if you look at the report, it's page 50. We're not going to go there. We just want to make sure that you understand that that's where it is. Okay. In page 50, there's a prior period adjustment. So in other words, in 2016, what happened was there was a misstatement made concerning the financial status. They overstated liabilities in a general fund that should have been recognized as revenues. All right. And so there's that one misstatement. So now we scroll down 2017-002. Here we have an issue to where we took over the transfer of sewer operations for the city of Walford. Now, there's a process that's in place according to the government accounting standards, number 69, that delineates how to transfer these operational business side of things from one municipality to the other. So 2017, this happened for the city of Walford. And let's just say, okay, they didn't know how to do it. Here we have that current management met several times with external auditors to continue to gain a better understanding. Great. We got that taken care of. We got that trained, right? And then we continue to 2017-003, and we find there's a lack of segregation of duties, essentially telling us that between the administrator and the clerk, or just the administrator is handling way too much. And because there's no segregation of duties in the general accounting process, it leaves room for a possibility of error misstatement or even fraud. Not saying that our current administrator would do this, but it leaves the room and the possibility for it to be done very easily. Here's how. When the administrator submits the proposed budget to the council and the council never reviews because there's no integrity and transparency across the board. So when you have the administrator submitting it, the administrator is just going to tell them what it is and the position, the overall net position of the town, and not really explain in detail what's going to happen. And then later on down the line, as we saw, there's expenditures that get adjusted because the actual versus the planned or the proposed is significantly higher every year, particularly with salaries. The administrator approves it without any accountability back to the council. There is no transparency across board to account for the discretion in the budget. So now 2017-004, here's another one, the Victims Assistance Allowance. What happened was the town council decided to use funds from the Victims Assistance Allowance for things that they were not supposed to. And they used $29,500 for it, to the point to where the Office of the Attorney General, Department of Crime Victim Compensation, so this is not even the accountant, this is coming from the state level where the Attorney General stepped in, did an audit, and found out that they misused $29,500. This is your current town council that did this from the Victims Assistance Fund. Let's go now to 2018. Remember 2017, we mentioned that there was an issue with the transfer of the capital from the acquired sewage service from Welford. Well, here we go. In 2018, we take over the wastewater fund and government-wide for the town of Duncan. And yet again, the error occurs. The same exact thing that they did in 2017, they did again in 2018. Here's the recommendation. We would encourage the town to become more aware of the accounting and financial reporting requirements for its fund and government-wide financial statements. So the accountant is telling them, look, you guys need to pay more attention to this. You did this last year and you're doing it again. You did it again this year. Something is falling. And the issue is lack of segregation of duties. Everything is falling on the shoulders of the administrator. The administrator steps into the town council meeting, says, this is the budget, this is how we're doing it, this is where we're at. We're in a good place, we're in a bad place, whatever it may be. And there is no real review of where the budget stands, not on a biannual basis, not on a quarterly basis, not on a monthly basis. So let's continue. In 2019, which by the way, here they say, they acknowledge it yet again, like they did in 17, and they plan on hiring somebody in 2020 of January. Keep that in your back pocket. In 2019, we come along, and again, their deficit of $151,000. But if we go to the reporting here, there's a current year adjustment yet again in here, to where it was noted that the town missed several large adjustments that needed to be made relating to accounts receivable accruals, land held for sale value, and look, the Victims Assistance cash balance. 2017, they get dinged for the victim assistance and misuse of funds. Here in 2019, that pesky little victims assistance thing comes up all over again. And here we go again for now the third year consecutively, lack of segregation of duties. And here they plan on hiring somebody now in March. Last year was January. This time it's March. Why March? Don't know. But apparently it was not that important for them for the past 3 years prior, to the point to where 2020 rolls along. And at the time of 2020, we look at it, and there it is. Lack of segregation of duties yet again. And here, a town has hired a full-time accountant who started on March 1st, 2020. Year ended June 2020. What happened between March and June? Why was there not any changes and adjustments made? Could it be that the accountant they hired has his or hands tied behind their back and they can't do anything? I wonder. Let's scroll up. Capital asset activity of 2020. Here, the town capitalized on two items that are below the town's capitalization threshold of $5,000. Here's what happens. A capital asset can be anything, a car, a computer, anything. But according to the ordinance that town council has approved and put into law, the threshold of it is $5,000. So that means anything above $5,000 is now capitalized, in which case it goes to the depreciation table. Just like a car, when you drive it off the lot, it depreciates $2,000, and over year it depreciates. Well, and then you pay the taxes based on the depreciation. The same thing happens with this. All right. So they capitalize two items that are below it to get the benefit of the capitalization and the depreciation of it. And then the town does not perform a regular inventory of its capital assets to ensure that all assets are correctly recorded and still in use. Here's what happened. There are items that were no longer in use, no longer held by the town, and yet they're still trying to call it part of the capital and depreciate it accordingly, which in material is illegal. And in fact, the IRS will destroy any one of us that do that. If you own a business, you understand what I'm talking about. Lastly, the town does not dispose of its police vehicles once they are sold. The town has had issues tracking them in capital asset system due to their description in the system not being specific enough. Well, quite frankly, whose fault is that? You know the money came in, it was sold. Where did that money come from? Put a proper description of what's been sold. And then the accounting firm gives an amazing recommendation, and that is to use the VIN numbers. We discovered approximately $3.2 million in capital asset additions that had not been added to the capital asset listing during the end year of June 30th, 2020. Approximately 2.939 of these additions were donated pump stations and sewer lines that the town had accepted from new developments. Now, the new developments promised or offered to donate the expenses of pump stations for the particular developments, which is amazing. That's great. That's collaboration. But yet the town is aware that those capital assets are supposed to be reported, that they should have learned when we took over the city of Welford's water and sewage, as well as the city of Duncan. Granted, those were not donations, but these are donations, and the capital assets had to be put in place so that we are held accountable for it. There we have clear evidence, again, from the town's website and their own financial reports that they have to submit to the state every year, that every year from 2016 to 2020, a proposed budget has always been in deficit, in the negative. And if they revised it, they went ahead and spent the money and left it in the deficit. You don't revise a budget and continue in deficit. You revise the budget because you are in deficit. That's budgeting 101. If you do your budget for your home, you know this to be the case. You know the amount of income that comes in. You know there's fixed expenses that go out. Your car payments, your car insurance, they're pretty much fixed. If you're on a balanced billing for Duke Energy, then you know that's fixed as well. You know how much is going to come out. And if something changes on the other stuff that was unexpected, then you adjust for the unexpected. You don't adjust to stay in the deficit. And yet my opponent claims to have continued on budget without cutting. But you have. You've taken from the water waste fund to cover the hole that you created when you approved the budget every year. I apologize if you felt I got worked up on that, but it's something that to me becomes very obvious and very clear. No one has held our council accountable. No one has challenge their level of transparency. Are they, as human beings, transparent? Perhaps. I don't know them personally. Perhaps you're friends with them. And perhaps on a personal basis, they are very transparent. They are very humble. But as far as when it comes to running the government of our town, sadly, they're not. They're not transparent, and they refuse to be held accountable. And that needs to change. My dear fellow citizens of Lyman, I hope I get your vote. But if not, my hope is that this has created enough questions in your mind to begin to wonder, what are they doing? What is really happening in the halls of town hall? How are they handling and stewarding the taxes that I pay, the business license fees that I pay, the water and sewage and trash disposal that I pay on a monthly basis? How are they stewarding that to make my life better here in Lyman? This is going to be the first of 3 live videos that I will do before the election. And the goal of these is to really help you, the citizen, make a conscious decision on who to vote for. It's time to keep the friends, friends. And it's time to vote, not for your friends, but for the ones who are going to bring results, the ones who are going to be truly transparent. One of the key things that I will do to be transparent is to put cameras in our town hall meeting center to make sure that every council meeting is transmitted and streamed live so that you as a citizen don't have to come to our town hall. You can watch online live. And any questions that you have, you can submit. Granted, they won't be answered live because that would be creating a management problem. But I promise to you, if I'm voted in as mayor and you have questions concerning how the process is in the town council and how the meeting was run, I will personally answer for them because I want to be transparent. I want to be held accountable. If I can't be held accountable, then the issue is my ego, not the welfare of my constituents, not the welfare of my community, not the welfare of my family who lives in the town of Lyman. I am Marc Garcia, your candidate for mayor of Lyman, South Carolina, 2021. I hope you have your vote November 2nd, 2021. Until next time, God bless America, God bless Lyman, and God bless you and your family.